What can Warren Buffett teach you about investing? I've got my 5 favorite quotes from Warren Buffett. That and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. There's just no question. The best investor of our generation last 100 years, Warren Buffett. Him and Charlie Munger, that combination, that duo, they have amassed billions of dollars. It is staggering. Now you might think, well, wait a second, what about Peter Thiel and Bill Gates and some of these other individuals? Didn't they, build their wealth by building companies? Yes, they did. And they owned stock in those companies, and it helped them amass this, significant wealth. However, Warren Buffett's approach was different than theirs. Warren Buffett didn't run companies. He invested in companies. He bought companies, and he bought so much of them that he had sort of the ownership kind of control of them, but he didn't come in and say, all right, now change this and stop building that. We're going to do this way. No, he just invested in it. He just invested in companies that he thought were a good value. And not that they were cheap or not that they were overvalued, whatever. He thought they were good values, and he held those companies for a long period of time. And it is staggering what Warren Buffett has accomplished. Now, he obviously gets a lot of attention anytime he speaks, and all of us, all of you should be interested in, well, how can I become a better investor? And so with the significant number of interviews and quotes that Warren Buffett has, what are my 5 favorite Warren Buffett quotes that can help you become a better investor? Favorite quote from Warren Buffett, number 1, be fearful when others are greedy, be greedy when others are fearful. I love that because on Wall Street, and Warren Buffett learned so much of his investment philosophy from Benjamin Graham. Benjamin Graham talked about Mr. Market in his famous book, The Intelligent Investor. Sometimes Mr. Market is willing to pay exuberant prices, right? Doesn't really care about earnings and profits and fundamentals from a company. They are just willing to pay, very high prices. And other times, Mr. Market is very fearful and pessimistic and doesn't want to pay high prices. And so he speaks to basically the euphoria, the greed on Wall Street, the frenzy that can occur to look at fundamentals and say, well, that's not as important right now. We're just going to, this is worth this, or we're going to bid prices up to this. And other times when there's so much fear going on Wall Street and the markets that even something of great value, yes, there's no assurance in the long term that value will be realized, but something that appears to have great value still is not trading and not performing well. And this is like the epitome of Warren Buffett's philosophy, investment philosophy. And again, born from Benjamin Graham, that listen, when the market is really frothy, when it's euphoric, when it's overly greedy, that's when you should be cautious. That's not when you should buy into the frenzy. That's when you should be cautious. And when the market is overly pessimistic and overly fearful, that's when you need to be assertive. That's when you need to be opportunistic. And guys, we've seen this play out a couple of times over these past couple of years. On the Wise Money Show channel, we've been looking at valuations. And after we emerged out of the COVID recession into 2021, and these valuations, guys, they might be supported long term, but right now it doesn't really make sense that prices are this high. And so they've come down obviously since then, and then stocks still aren't cheap. They might be closer to fair value. They're not cheap yet. And so Warren Buffett's most famous phrase, in my opinion, my favorite quote from his, is to be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. A great lesson to apply to your investing in your finances. Now, to balance that quote, you've got to have this second one, my second favorite Warren Buffett quote. The stock market is a mechanism for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Oh, I love that. I love that because during 2000, 2001, as we're looking at frothy valuations, saying, "Gosh, I don't know how long this can last, but the fundamentals don't line up with this." And then during you've got to just be patient to say, well, I think I still don't think, despite what Mr. Market is saying, I still don't think this is accurate. But really, it's during the challenging times that require great patience. Some things just take time. This is sort of an add-on Warren Buffett quote, which I also, it's a touch crude, but it speaks right to this, the benefit of being patient. No matter how great the talent or effort is, some things just take time. You can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. And so again, like successful investing requires patience. It will take time. Things are seasonal. Of course, when you're being greedy, when others are fearful, when you're being optimistic, when others are pessimistic, that it doesn't mean things will turn around overnight. In fact, we're at a spot right now when I would say, well, geez, the stock market is more fairly valued than it was, a year ago, a year and a half ago. And yet it might take a few years for us to realize, oh no, yes, stocks were better priced right now. We might see some pretty serious ups and downs here for the foreseeable future, depending on what happens with inflation, what the Fed does, and all that sort of stuff. So being patient, one of the most important investment disciplines. Favorite quote number 3, the most important quality for an investor is temperament, not intellect. So there again, it speaks to the patience and the discipline, just like those the first 2 favorite quotes. And this one again, temperament. So not buying into the euphoria when Wall Street is bidding prices up in this sort of buying frenzy. A couple years ago, after COVID and during 2021, I was sharing, there's sort of like, we've all heard of panic selling. But there was like panic buying happening. Think about meme stocks and that sort of thing. There's panic buying of, oh my goodness, if I don't buy now, I might miss out. And so having the right temperament to just be steady and patient through those times, still consistently invest and focus on your long-term goals. But then when sort of that environment changes, when that climate changes, and all of a sudden things get very volatile and get very concerning on Wall Street, having the right temperament, not to panic, not to overcorrect or make some big adjustments. In fact, Warren Buffett, during times of great market turmoil, he is very loud and vocal to say, I'm buying stocks. I'm buying the S&P 500. I remember that clearly in 2008. It was almost like he was sort of the rallying cry for consumers when everyone else was abandoning stocks and saying, oh my goodness, how far will this go? Warren Buffett raises his hand. I'm buying stocks. I'm buying the S&P 500 index right now. And so having the right temperament and connected with the right patience and discipline, that's how you become a successful investor over the long term. All right, and this one, my 4th favorite quote from Warren Buffett, this is telling right now. We're nearing the end of the year. You're hearing a lot of market predictions. Of course, pretty much every economist out there is predicting a recession next year. This is very interesting. Forecast may tell you a great deal about the forecaster. They tell you nothing about the future. What a great reminder. On our Wise Money talk show that airs on this channel every Saturday morning, around the beginning of the year, each year, a couple weeks into January, we'll typically do a show about the themes that are going to be driving the market. And I'll tease and say, okay, guys, make your prediction. But we often don't. We often don't play that game because all the big names, so many of the talking heads on these financial news networks, they will tell you what their forecast is. Guys, no one can predict the future. And if you listen carefully, all the forecasters are just kind of taking today's trend and applying it forward, because no one can anticipate what will come out of left field or what will change the circumstances. And no one can perfectly do that. And so forecasts are really pointless, okay? You need to look at what are your long-term goals and whether the market's going to be volatile this upcoming year or it's going to be straight up, whether inflation is now tamed or whether it spikes again. If you're planning to retire in 20 years, you should be doing certain things. You should be saving aggressively, saving consistently into your 401k, doing tax planning to see whether that should be pre-tax or Roth, making sure you've got an emergency fund in place, being responsible with that, paying down debt. These certain things that are principled based as opposed to dependent on, well, is the stock market going up or down? And then my 5th favorite Warren Buffett quote, and it really just encompasses all of them. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone else planted a tree a long time ago. What a fantastic metaphor for the benefits of starting early and saving and being greedy when others are fearful, being patient when others are impatient, having the right temperament, right? And not being caught up in the financial news networks or the tabloids, financial tabloids of, well, where's the stock market going from here, and having that distract you. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone else planted a seed, planted a tree 20 years ago. Guys, this speaks to just having what I would say the law of the harvest. Stephen Covey is kind of that he's got that in a lot of his books as well. That listen, there's sort of just a natural way that things go, and yeah, naturally, if you plant a seed, you plant a tree 20 years ago. It's going to take time for that tree to develop and mature, and same with your finances. And so this speaks to the benefit of starting early, applying the right wise habits early in your financial life, then being patient, having that temperament, riding through those ups and downs without making big adjustments, correcting course. And here's the thing, if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, I didn't start early. I've got some goals that I'm trying to achieve, but I didn't start early. Well, listen, right now is the earliest moment that you get to control. Right now is the earliest moment that you get to control. So 20 years from now, do you want to have a bunch of shade trees, or do you still want to have a bunch of regrets and a bunch of receipts and a bunch of concerns? I would argue, take your next wise step right now. That's why this entire channel is here, to talk about what are the wise financial habits that you need to apply, not the financial tabloids, the distractions to what's going on right now and how can you react to whatever is happening. No, what are the wise financial habits that you need to apply right now to get you where you want to be over the long term? Work with your certified financial planner on that. Learn from Warren Buffett. Learn from these that have really endured long-term financial success. There's a lot of wisdom there. Those are my top 5 favorite quotes. What are yours? Which ones did I miss? Leave them in comments below. All right, if you need any help working through your next wise step in your finances, talk to your CFP. If you don't have a CFP on your team, talk to one on my team. You can find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.